Welcome to Learn to Live Stress-Free. This is Christine Wright with Dr. Robert Wright Jr., your go-to wellness coaches of www.stressfreenow.info. Our featured guest today is Chris Cade. Chris is a second-degree black belt and martial arts champion who has firewalked with Peggy Dillon, swum with wild dolphins in Bimini, and tested software to find the bugs. His journey, leaving a six-figure income and corporate life with Hitachi and Adobe for a spiritual one, has rewarded this visionary with the opportunity to serve hundreds of thousands of people worldwide in over 150 countries. Chris is also a grateful full-time father.
Hi, this is Dr. Bob, the stress relief doctor, and we are so glad that we could have Chris Cade back again with us to grace us with his presence and to share some really interesting insights on ways of dealing with and overcoming anxiety in some specific solutions, because anxiety in our society, many people have anxiety. It's something that's a little talked about. So, Chris, welcome back to the Stress Free Now show.
It's wonderful to be here. Look forward to playing with you again.
Great. Okay. So, Chris, on your website, you offer individuals tools to help them deal with anxiety. And you have ebooks, you have e-courses, and other aspects on your site that would be helpful to people. So, in a nutshell, from your perspective, can you just tell our audience what anxiety is about? What is that really about? Because I noticed that you very much are able to tease out the difference between fear and anxiety. So can you lay that out simply for our audience?
Yeah. In short, fear is where we actually know what we are scared about. We have an object, we have a point of our attention. And that is something where we are basically scared that we're either not going to get what we want, the future will be bad, negative, worse than the present. The future that is bad will be like the past that was bad. So basically, we have an idea about how the future will be, and we think that future will be negative. And so it pulls us out of the present moment, and instead we feel fear instead of presence. Anxiety, on the other hand, doesn't have a point. We don't know why we feel anxious. It can overtake us. It can be acute. It can last for a few seconds, several minutes, hours, whatever it is, but it can literally just stop us in our tracks, and we won't consciously know why that's happening. We just know that we can't handle reality right now. And sometimes we even know in our brain this doesn't make sense, but I can't stop myself. And there's seemingly no end to anxiety when we're in it because we don't have an object. We can't say, I'm anxious about X, Y, Z. We just say, whoa, I can't handle this. This is crazy. I can't handle. I can't go there. And you could hear the shift in my tone of voice. You know, fear, we can be scared, but there's a certainty. We know what it's about. We want to pull back, but we know what it's about. But anxiety is just sort of this high-end, pitch like, oh, I can't stop. I don't know what's going on. Please stop. I don't know. Please help me. Right? There's a speed in it. There is a frustration, but also a key distinguishment is that with fear, there's usually enough logical mind that if we needed to, we could find hope. And anxiety, basically our prefrontal cortex just shuts down. There isn't logical thinking. That capacity is not there during anxiety, and we really just kind of, step back and feel out of control.
Great. I couldn't agree more, Chris. I want to fast forward the conversation. In terms of anxiety, the federal statistics show that, for example, the Centers for Disease Control show that 1 in 6 adults in the United States, 18 or over, have a serious anxiety disorder. So, that means 1 in 6 people have something really going on, like PTSD, or they're having panic attacks or generalized anxiety disorder. So here's the thing. Recently, I've been seeing some amazing things going on with the smartphones. So for example, recently I saw an article where the author of a technology article was talking about what she termed cell phone anxiety. And so that was the first time I heard that term. And so it's basically she was talking about dead battery syndrome, and that since she, like many other people, they have put so much of their life on their smartphone, that what has happened is that if the battery goes dead, they're in trouble. And so her solution was to have two phones, and so that calmed her anxiety. And then the other issue that seems to be coming up is in terms of distraction is, for example, an article in the New York Post cited a study done at SUNY showed that 10% of the emergency room visits to Bellevue Hospital in Manhattan on the east side were cell phone related. People walking out in the street, not paying attention, they get hit by a car, they fall and they break their ankle, et cetera. They're coming into the emergency room. And then Time Magazine had done a piece showing that in a survey, 50% of people admitted to falling asleep with their cell phone in their hands. And so all of this type of stuff, the consequence of that for sleep deprivation, et cetera, goes without saying, because there have been recent studies coming out of Harvard Medical School which show that the blue light from the phone interferes with the circadian rhythm. So in terms of anxiety, Chris, can you make sense of this in terms of solutions for people that they could do that could help? Cell phone anxiety, that's the new one.
Right. Well, I'm gonna step back and say that at least for the dialogue we're having, I would call that cell phone fear more than anxiety, because there is a point that if someone follows the train of thought, they're scared they're going to miss something, which is, a more specific thing than just an anxiety attack because their phone exists. So I would say that for our dialogue, it's more useful to point to that as a fear rather than anxiety. And in that, I think that, cell phones, they are an incredible tool, and I love having mine. And I think it's a wonderful support when we find the ways in which it can work for us. So one thing I would point to is the woman who said, the answer to, her phone going down is to have two phones. I would offer the possibility that what she's really doing is putting a Band-Aid on her fear and not actually dealing with the fear and finding truly practical solutions. It's likely that she's in a high-stress life, or that she has brought in a lot of unnecessary distractions into her life. The need to, maybe it's as simple as low self-esteem and the need to feel connected on Facebook or texting, right? So I'm not saying this is what it is for her, but what I'm teasing out is that her fear has a source, and it could be one of many sources, and anybody listening to this may find themselves scared about one or more things. It might be the fear of missing out. If they miss the right message, if they miss the right opportunity, friends are going out, the right business opportunity, any number of things. There might be a fear of missing out. There could be a fear of disconnection, a fear of rejection. Those are certainly things that point to why someone would never want to be without a phone, which, of course, is why you would have two phones in case one goes down and so on. But those are all fears that are rooted in not being in the present moment. Like I said, in previous interviews, for me, my true north is always what is present, what is here, what is real. So when we're looking at, we have this cell phone, is it supporting us to be present, or is it actually disconnecting us from the present moment? So when I think about, you were talking about the blue light at night and so on, I have my cell phone. What I do is I set the do not disturb feature to go from, it's probably 9:30 or 10 at night up until about 8 in the morning. So that way my phone isn't going to light up. It's not going to ring. It's not going to text, beep, no alerts whatsoever. during that time period. And that's an automatic setting. I never have to do it. It just does it every night for me. And then I put my phone, down near my bed, but not with me. And the reason why is because I often, with a son that I'm getting up early in the morning with, I have an alarm. So I use the phone in a strategic way to have that alarm. So it'll wake me up at the time I need to wake up. Not before then, no extra light, no extra sound, none of that stuff. But when I need it, it is there for me to support my life so I can be present with my son, get him ready for school, and so on. In my daily life, I actually choose to leave my phone face down and often away from me to some degree. I leave it on vibrate because I don't really like having the extra noise come into my space. Again, what I'm orienting towards is when I'm working, I want to be focused on my work. When I'm with someone, I don't want to be pulled out of the moment. So if I'm getting a massage, some sort of self-care practice, I will put it on Do Not Disturb. I don't care what it is that's happening. That's my self-care time. If it's truly an emergency, they can call twice, and that'll break through the Do Not Disturb barrier. So there's a way that people can do that. And if it's an emergency, they will call twice. Really, I mean, they're not going to settle for a voicemail. So I look at the features of the phone as a really good opportunity to support my presence, not to take me away from it. And I could continue on with all sorts of various examples in my life, but I love using timers. I think that is one of the most valuable uses of my cell phone is to say, you know what, I have a hard stop that I need someplace to be. I'm going to set an alarm for 5 minutes before then. And until that alarm goes off, I'm going to be present with whatever my direct experience is. So I'm not checking my phone for the time. Am I missing it? Do we have enough time? Blah, blah, blah. It's just like, okay, I'm here. My phone will tell me when I need to bring my attention somewhere else. So I'm going to leave it there for now, but I'm just going to say that the phone can be an invaluable tool for supporting presence when we use the tools that are available to us, rather than being attached to it and always trying to not miss something, to be scared, to be concerned.
Right, and that's why I brought this up, because the New York Post article was talking about the addictive aspect of the phone, where it's literally like the tail wagging the dog, mentioning that, dopamine and serotonin, which are feel-good molecules, the phone going off in terms of a text or beep, it's the intermittent spiking of those neurochemicals. So I just wanted to mention this aspect, that the article pointed out that when you use the phone inappropriately like that, that is actually causing decreased awareness and decreased awareness of what's happening around you and also other people. So that's how people are walking out in the street. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly that certainly the smartphone, in terms of the things it can do, if you think about that thing that you have holding in your hand compared to it has more power than the biggest IBM computer in 1970 probably. And so
right.
so it's pretty incredible in that sense. So Chris, can you just give our audience your final thoughts of today about how they could, just a tip for resolving anxiety that you find that works for most people?
Yes. Anxiety is, again, it's a long-term experience as far as, it's not developed over one acute moment. It's multiple acute moments. It's something that typically recurs in people's lives. And so one of the most important things to do is focus on relaxing your nervous system anytime you can, even when you're not in an anxious state. Because ultimately, the more that your nervous system is relaxed, the less anxiety you're going to have, and the faster you can return into the present moment and let go of that anxiety and ultimately eliminate that anxiety, because anxiety, it resides in the nervous system. It's not a mental construct. It's not something where we go, oh, this is what I'm anxious about, and if I just, do a couple, mental exercises and see my therapist, my anxiety will go away. In my view, that's not how it works. In my experience, view, and observation, Anxiety is in the nervous system. So, practical things we can do: meditate each day. That's important. Get enough sleep. Okay, get enough sleep, because again, when we don't get enough sleep, all of our neurochemicals are off balance. We are more edgy. We are more prone to fear, anxiety, and so on. So get enough sleep. Really, it's taking care of ourselves. So sleep, meditation, being present in our body, actually land in the present moment. In a previous, conversation, we talked about flow state. That's a great one to listen to, because if we're in a flow state, we can't be in anxiety. And all the things that support a flow state will support minimizing or eliminating anxiety. Today you and I talked about the cell phone, and you touched on something that's very important, which is when we get a text message, when we get a notification, what it does is it triggers the serotonin in our bodies to be released. And so therefore, we end up getting, serotonin, dopamine, and, all these other things, sometimes adrenaline. So we may get a good dose of feel good and an emergency at the same time. And then what we do is we start draining those chemicals in our bodies over and over. We can get adrenal fatigue. We can start, not producing as much dopamine or requiring more dopamine in a burst to feel good. And ultimately that can lead us down again when our hormones are being just withdrawn and taxed. Anxiety is so much easier to creep in. So another thing we can do is give ourselves some space from the cell phone. Do things like I said, set an do not disturb overnight. Keep it further away from us. If there's an activity where you don't need your cell phone, I will often intentionally leave my phone in a room different than where I am. So if I know I'm going to go maybe just watch a TV show with the family or play a game or go for a walk, I will leave my cell phone away from me just for 30 minutes or an hour, because generally speaking, the world will not end in that 30 minutes to an hour. And it will give all of my serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline glands, all those, a chance to just relax, just breathe. And so those are just some very simple things. But when we do all of that, and we keep compounding one approach and strategy after another to relax our nervous system, then we start relaxing the sources of anxiety. I don't watch news on TV. That's just constant stress. It's almost always the bad news, adrenaline, things like that don't support me being present. So anything that is taking me into a state of fear or taking me into a state of frustration are things that I will minimize to the best of my abilities throughout the day intentionally, so that there isn't that likelihood for me to feel fear or anxiety. Because over time, once our nervous system adapts to being relaxed, anxiety doesn't have a place to reside. Anxiety in our nervous system is looking for a place that goes, oh, there's the hook. Yes, okay, let's get you triggered now. But if we actually don't give it things to hook into, it's going to dissolve over time. And for those of us who have trauma, PTSD, things that are actually deeper than our daily anxiety, daily frustration sources that lead to that kind of anxiety, I really recommend a body-based approach called somatic experiencing. It's basically a body-based approach to trauma that helps release trauma out of the nervous system. Again, we're talking about nervous system here. So that's another thing where if you really have an anxiety that goes way beyond what we're talking about in general daily life, that is a real issue that needs to be addressed by a professional. And somatic experiencing is the number one way I recommend people who have trauma and anxiety to actually start working with it, because, as I said, it's in the nervous system, and often if we have trauma, that means we had some experience that got lodged in our nervous system. It's not psychology. Newer research shows that psychology isn't where trauma resides. It resides in the nervous system. So experts trained to help us release that out of the nervous system will help eliminate that anxiety we have from sources other than daily life.
Great, Chris. I want to thank you for that. So, and thank you for being our featured guest today. Chris, just briefly tell our audience how they can get in touch with you should they want to work with you or have you come speak to their group.
Yeah, easiest way is just visit me at chriscade.com, CHRISCADE.com. Plenty of resources there, free, ebooks, audios, videos, blog posts. Great ways. If someone wants to get coaching, there's ways to sign up for that. And if you're looking at having me come speak, then, the help desk is a great way to get to my assistant, and we can schedule it that way. So, again, chriscade.com.
Great. So that's chriscade.com if you want to get in touch with Chris. What final thought or key idea would you like our audience to take away from today's broadcast, Chris?
When it comes to anxiety and fear, really it's about returning to the present moment and eliminating any distractions that pull us away from the present moment, any distractions that will just automatically on their own trigger the release of adrenaline. That's something we really want to step aside from, the fight or flight, all that stuff. So eliminate, the bad news, distance yourself from people who are in a constant state of fear, anxiety, or negativity. Take breaks from your phone for 30 minutes to an hour at a time when you don't need to be behind it. Do anything you can that allows your nervous system to relax. Because when it does that, the anxiety will naturally, minimize and over time eventually eliminate. Anxiety is not a permanent thing. And for most people, medication is not a required long-term solution. Medication can be a brilliant and necessary short-term solution. But don't assume that just because you're using medication now, that will be the way it is forever. Because there are definitely people that I know and have worked with who are able to get themselves off of anxiety medication over time because they do what we're talking about. They do the things that allow their nervous system to relax and release the trauma. So again, just eliminate the distractions, give yourself time and space, focus on the self-care that you need for your nervous system to relax.
Great, Chris. I want to thank you for that. And that aspect that you talked about, the relaxation and the dissolving of the anxiety, is confirmed by the open focus technique that I use with clients. So thank you for being our featured guest today. And thank you for listening wherever you are and whatever time zone you're in right now. We certainly appreciate your presence, and we trust that you'll benefit in some way from the information that we delivered during today's podcast show. We welcome and look forward to receiving your comments about our show. Please let us know if there are additional topics you'd like to see us cover or a guest you enjoyed so much that you'd like us to invite them back. Please contact us through our website with your feedback and suggestions. Remember, listeners, if you'd like to experience the same benefits our coaching clients get with us, including learning how to get more results in your day and easy ways to dissolve your chronic pain, stress, and anxiety, then give us a call at 954-900-2179. Mention that you heard our Stress Free Now podcast show, and you'll receive a free gift from us. Call or email us today to schedule your appointment. For Christine Wright, this is Dr. Robert Wright, Jr. of www.stressfreenow.info. Until next time, be safe and be well.